This is October 11th, 2022, and we're out in front of the Grossman Community Services District on 35th Street because the California Special Districts Association is featuring Grossman's Reclamation plant in a documentary they expect to show to the California legislature.
I have quite the shine on.
Spell it for us. My name is Keith Dias, spelled Keithdyas.
You got it. Keith, what are the roles that you play in the water world here in this region?
Well, I'm a member of the board of directors of the Antelope Valley Eastern Water Agency, but most importantly for this project is that I am a member of the Lahontan Regional Water Quality Control Board, a region of the state in which we're located.
And Keith, by trade, you're a civil engineer, correct?
I'm a civil engineer, yes.
And Keith, are you from this community?
I have lived in Grossman since about 1956. Bug?
On one frame it'll be in there and on one frame it'll be gone. So Keith, tell me about the groundwater basin here in this region.
The basin that we're in, the Antelope Valley Water Basin, is self-contained, it's closed. In other words, water that enters the basin does not leave it naturally. The only way it leaves the aquifer is by pumping. So that's good and bad. It's good in that we don't lose water out to the ocean. It's contained, but we have to be extremely protective of the groundwater quality we've got, because once pollution enters the aquifer, it does not leave naturally and it can spread. So we have to watch very carefully what we allow anywhere near our aquifer.
And what's happened over the years to this aquifer?
Extreme overpumping, primarily from alfalfa production since the 1940s.
Tell me about, if you could kind of elaborate on what extreme pumping and overproduction of alfalfa has done.
Well, for instance, at one time,
start over from the top. Yeah.
This basin, prior to 1900, had water almost at the surface of the soil. Water enters the region from the mountain rim and percolates into the aquifer. And it had stored up so much over the centuries that there were actually places on the surface of the water. And there were artesian wells that resulted from high water levels. However, because of overpumping, development, farming, those water levels have dropped considerably.
It'll be just real smooth, quick conversation.
Okay.
So first thing I'm going to ask you to do, Greg, is you just please say your name and also spell it for us to make sure we get it right.
Okay, my name is Gregory Wood, GregorYWood.
And Greg, can you tell me what's your role here at Grossman Community Services District?
I'm on the board of directors for the Grossman Community Services District.
And Greg, when were you elected to the board here?
I was elected, my last election was 2018, and but my first election, or actually first appointment, was 1996. And off and on, I've served on the board for 19 years.
And Greg, can you tell us about the Rosamond Community Services District?
The Rosamond Community Service District is the agency that handles the water and sewer and graffiti abatement for the community of Rosamond.
9 different regions for water quality control, and each region is charged with protecting the quality of the water both on the ground and on the surface in their region. And this is done through regulatory processes in cooperation with all the stakeholders.
And once the adjudication happened and limited everyone's ability to, or put in a time schedule to limit the ability to pump water, what signal did that send to these stakeholders, and what have they done in order to respond to that?
In order to respond to the requirements of the stipulated judgment of the adjudication, extreme restrictions were placed, limitations were placed on each groundwater production well to bring the system into balance with each. And in some cases, those restrictions brought hardship to some communities, such as Grossman, that didn't have enough groundwater production rights, and supplement them with imported water.
And so,
Needed resource of water, plus also a safety aspect of collecting sewage and treating it and disposing of it properly.
Now, you work for one of the largest special district agencies in the state, and now you're on the board of a relatively smaller special district. What is it about special districts, you think, that uniquely equips them to handle those types of jobs as water and sewer?
They are the closest to the community.
If you could start by saying special districts are.
Special districts are closest to the community. And whether, it doesn't matter what special district it is, it's something that focuses on a need for that region or that community. And Sacramento's a long way away from Rosamond. And Bakersfield is a long way away from Rosamond. So by having a special district in the community of Grossman, it gives direct access from the people in this community to a board that is receptive to them, that works for them, and answers their needs and their concerns. Something that I don't think you get when the seat of power is a long way away.
okay. So the recently upgraded and redesigned Grossman Reclamation Facility?
Water reclamation.
Water Reclamation Facility. Is that possible? Is that too much of a mouthful?
I'll try.
Okay. Sorry, Keith.
That's okay.
That through our ponds, with clay line, we were leaking nitrates in the aquifer. And once that was discovered, the Lahot Regional Board said, hey, you guys gotta fix this. So through a lot of discussion back and forth, there were some options. Either A, we could line all of our evac ponds, which was cost prohibitive, or to come up with a process to process our water. We had a tertiary plant built, but it was only built big enough to handle half of our daily inflow. So we could either expand the plant, but we were still faced with the regulatory issues of infrastructure to deliver to an end user. And that would have been millions and millions of dollars. Money we just didn't have. The Lahontan board is the one that actually came up with the concept, saying, hey, why don't you go ahead and treat your water to a secondary level and remove the nitrates down to an acceptable level, which is below 10, and then you can turn around and percolate it on site. That's a win-win situation, because now we don't have to invest millions of dollars in infrastructure. We can simply percolate it on site, 100% reuse, gets percolated, helps heal the aquifers, and at the same time, gives us approximately about 1,300 acre-feet of water of pumping credits of the water that we're putting back in the aquifer. So we recovered, just by using our daily influent, we recovered 1,300 acre-feet of the water we lost because of the adjudication.
I want to use the right nomenclature. And I don't know if there's a name for the project, or if it's maybe better just to call it, is it fair to say by recycling our water and recharging the groundwater basin instead of letting it evaporate, is that like the cleanest, most simplest way of describing it, in terms of setting it up, what you're doing?
Yes, it's the simplest way to do it.
And so if you could kind of frame it that way, say by doing this instead of doing this, it's a win-win situation.
Right.
Because it was more affordable and we get the credits for our groundwater, which we need in light of the adjudication.
Right. Well, it is this process versus evaporation. Let me start off by saying evaporation doesn't do anybody any good. It's just been an accepted method of getting rid of your wastewater when you don't have the money to invest in a tertiary plant and the infrastructure to deliver to an end user. So it's just put it in an evap pond, let it evaporate. But the thing is, evaporation ponds are not free. They cost money. It costs money to purchase the land, it costs money to construct them, and it costs money to maintain them. And you're getting no benefit from this. Here, we got a win-win situation by allowing our water to percolate on our own property. So we had to invest $0 in infrastructure to deliver to an end user. And then this way, we get 100% reuse of our influent. And to show you how rare that is, most of your tertiary agencies out there do not have 100% reuse. They maybe have 30, 40, some of them do, but a lot of them, they get as much of that water as they can to the end user, and the rest of it goes out to the ocean. And again, wasted water, and that's why this is such a good plan, because this gets, the community gets 100% of the benefit. And the valley, in turn, gets 100% of the benefit by helping to heal the aquifer.
That water has never been properly recognized as a resource. It's actually was considered a nuisance. It creates problems. It has a possibility to contaminate the aquifer. It costs a lot of money to build the infrastructure to capture it, to hold it, to treat it. And up until this time, that has simply cost the community a lot of money and wasted a valuable resource. In fact, this project has converted what had been a nuisance, a detriment, into a valuable asset, creating water to supplement the little groundwater production rights that Grossman does have.
Then you can turn around and you can solve, I believe, that you can solve this state's water woes by just having all this unfound water, which was basically new water, replenishing the aquifers up and down the state. The state's going to continue to have droughts. But if the aquifers are healthy and full, the farmers won't run short on water. Communities won't run short on water.
So tell me about the benefits. You told me in more words than less, but so that we can break it down for the common person that might not understand, you could break down what are the cost savings here. So first of all, I loved it, and if you agree with these words, you could use them, is that we're turning a liability into an asset here, right? So instead of letting this water just evaporate and having to deal with wastewater, we're actually reusing it and turning it into an asset and replenishing our drinking water supply. So I like that concept, but then also we're saving on not having, you said not having to spend on the infrastructure, but if you could actually spell that out, we don't have to build purple pipes everywhere all over the place, right? Especially over a large region like what, you're serving a lot of space, even if it's only 5,000 customers spread over good distance, so that's a massive savings. And then, so kind of just where are the turning a liability into an asset, and why is this so much more cost effective?
Okay. Well, what you're doing is that you were, like we were talking about, is turning a liability, which is having evaporation ponds that don't serve any good other than just containing the sewage for a health reason and evaporating the water where it goes and drops rain somewhere else, but not where you live. And turning it into an asset to where now you're taking 100% of that water. In our case, our community, we bring in about 1.2 million gallons a day. So that's 1.2 million gallons a day that we can capture, put into the aquifer that this community directly benefits from. And when you talk about the infrastructure cost of having to build purple pipe everywhere, you have to run purple pipe to a destination. You got to put in pumping facilities, electrical, and everything else. You have to maintain that infrastructure. And then you have to send it to an end user who at any time, after you spend millions of dollars, say, you know what, we don't want to use our recycled water anymore. We're getting too much pushback. Community doesn't like it for whatever reason. Then all of a sudden you spend all that money, now you got to go find another end user, and then you got to run purple pipe. It's something that can perpetually can keep just going on and on and on. So this way, you don't have to invest in all that infrastructure. The water goes into the ground, the aquifer gets replenished, and the community gets the drinking water from it, being more pumping rights, and the aquifer gets healed by having more water go into it.
Other such methods of capturing and reclaiming wastewater and putting it immediately back into the aquifer to form another resource for an arid community that needs more water. And part of the beauty of the project is its simplicity. A major handicap in trying to do this before always involved major investment in infrastructure, not just to treat the water, but to redistribute it and reuse it with purple pipe. We're not having to do that here. Essentially, we're using our aquifer as a conduit, as a new pipeline that's already existing, costs nothing, and we can distribute anywhere in the United States.
It has a population of about 18,000. And which on the population side, it might be a little bigger than some of them. But as far as our influence, we're only talking about 1.2 million communities. Most of your small communities, are going to have that kind of influence. They might have more commercial than we do. They might have maybe not as many homes, but they have more industrial centers, producing sewage and things of that nature. So our community, I feel, fits right in the middle. Is that, we're pretty, if Grossman can do it, I would feel confident saying that the majority of small communities can do it.
And what does the state need to do to help them do it?
I would say that, offer funding, offer help, as far as, you're going to get the regional water board, our regional water board, they're great. It was their idea. And so I think where the state should make available is maybe some kind of funding for communities that maybe just don't have the money, but they want to build a facility, they want to percolate water. And I think if the state can just get on board with maybe, helping some of the communities that just don't quite have the revenue to get in this, the state benefits. If the state helps a community recycle 100% of their influent sewage, then the state benefits because the aquifer benefits, which helps the entire state.
Can you give me, it might be something you have to follow up with Steve on, but in terms of comparing the cost of going to tertiary treatment, of laying purple pipe, of what that type, because I think the state has in mind this idea of 100% recycled water. but it's just so cost prohibitive to do. Everybody's thinking of it in that terms. We're gonna do tertiary, we're gonna do recycle, we're gonna do purple pipe everywhere, right? And you've just shortcut the whole process, and you're doing 100% recycled by recharging groundwater. Can you just, is there a concise way of comparing and contrasting those two approaches?
Well, yes, like I stated before, tertiary Title 22 water is and always will be the gold standard. You've got your large agencies, LA County Sanitation, Los Angeles City, Orange County, San Diego, East Bay Mud, all your big metropolitan areas, they've already made the investments. They've already put in the purple pipe infrastructure, the pumping stations and everything else. And they should keep doing that. That is still the good way to go. But the point is that just because they've gone that route, now you've got an opportunity to where other agencies can do the exact same thing, but not have to go to all that expense that these larger agencies who can afford it, because they've got the base. You know, you've got 100,000 customers, it's a lot easier to afford a purple pipe program versus a community that only has 15,000. And so by doing this, it gets everybody in the game. And I think the attitude should be is that it doesn't matter how we get there, as long as we all, at the end of it all, the state benefits, our aquifers benefit, our farmers benefit.
Both in recognizing the value of this project and in being able to work with the Grossman Community Service District, General Manager Steve Perez, the board, the staff, in developing methodology for allowing the process to move forward without fear of contaminating the groundwater.
Are you picking up their future of water resources?
This route demonstrates how it's distributed water. Do not see
Okay,
sticks, stones, and larger debris that will come in with the influent.
right?
And then it runs through aeration basin 1 and 2.
Uh-huh.
And that's where all the biological work is done.
That's what we saw over there, bubbling up.
That's what we saw in the 2 bubbling basins.
Okay.
From there, it channels its way through a couple of distribution boxes, and then comes to the clarifier. In the
Okay.
clarifier, the solid sink and the light stuff floats to the surface, which
Yeah.
is skimmed off to remove any floatables.
Yeah.
From there, the effluent will flow over the weirs,
Okay.
the clarifier, and out to the percolation basins.
I see.
And as you can see in this effluent weir here,
Yeah.
there's very little things that are coming over.
Yeah. So it's doing its job.
It's doing its job. The center, you see the floating particles.
Yeah.
Those are being skimmed off and removed. And the clearer water comes down from underneath the effluent launder and comes over the effluent launder and will make its way to one of 3 percolation basins that were designed for the facility.
I see. I see.
Explain to him where it goes from here as far as this going to the pond, how it goes out there.
Once it comes over the effluent launder, it will go through a channel of pipe systems that will lead to 2 distribution boxes. The distribution boxes, one is to utilize the utility water pumps located on the property, and the other will go through a flow meter that will be discharged, and I have the option to pick percolation basin A, B, or C and rotate between the 2 for cleaning and percolation rates. Currently, all the effluent from this facility is heading out to a lined pond that has been pumped over to the old evaporation system, and we will continue to do that until the plant is acclimated and the organisms have came into growth and we are generating a quality of effluent that meets the state requirements.
And in the percolation pond, how long does it take for the water to percolate into the ground?
It will take quite a while for it to get there. Our groundwater is at about 68 feet, anywhere from 68 to 100 feet down. It will take quite a period of time to make it down through there, but as it percolates down through the earth, it will filter itself and continue to clean itself even further than what it is.
And you expect to be there in a month or two?
We are hoping to be there within a month or so.
The human body.
So the easiest way to explain it is the human body.
Yeah.
You know, the human body.
Wait right here. You're going to tell me what's in that pond there.
Okay. So the human body has bacteria and organisms in it that break down the food that you eat every day.
Yeah.
Some of that food is converted into energy that you use, and some of it is turned into waste that you dispose of.
Yeah.
That's the same way with this plant. It will grow a bacterial growth that is capable of treating the incoming food you're providing it, and it will break it down.
Yeah.
At a certain point, you will develop an abundance of bacteria, and at that point, you start wasting. We have 12 built sludge drying beds that the excess organisms that we do not need get wasted to. It is dried, and then it is picked up by a facility, and it is used further to become compost to use at farms or homes of things of that nature.
I got it, and that's one of them I'm looking at right now.
That's one that you're looking at there with the dark solids on top that are drying. That can later be stockpiled and then utilized for future.
And when we used to clean out the evaporation ponds every so often, that's what we were scooping up.
That's what you were scooping up. Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks very much.